Hello everybody, this is TechHut, and in this video we are going to do a little tour, a hardware tour of what I'm currently running in my Homelab home server environment. Since the last time we've done one of these videos, there have been a ton of changes, some new rather dramatic additions to my rack, and in this video we're going to be talking about just about all of it. Touching on what I was previously running, obviously the current setup and how everything's kind of connected and working together, and a little bit of discussion on the plans for the future. And first, before we get into the actual tour, I do want to touch on kind of what I was previously running. This guy right here. This guy was the powerhouse of my home server setup. This is the ZimaCube. This is probably still my favorite desktop NAS that has been made. We got the drives. You probably noticed this one right here is empty, and that's because we got a nice little removable drive here with 4 NVMEs. Beautiful, really good connectivity, super fast NICs. This honestly is probably going to end up finding its way back in or using this as an offsite backup device. Additionally, I've switched over from TP-Link Omada, which has worked really good, to Unifi. I'll talk a lot more about Unifi, but TP-Link was awesome because, well, I had one of their little cloud boxes, but that thing was painfully slow. So for a while there, I was running their actual software on a Raspberry Pi, which was a very nice thing about it. Something I liked about it more than Unifi until recently is that you can self-host the software on whatever you want, but Unifi, you could do that now too, which is cool. And other than that, you'll kind of see some of the changes coming up. And recently, or for the longest time, my actual home lab rack has been a complete disaster. But ever since I got some new rack mount equipment, I needed to take the time to go ahead, organize, and actually build it up to look a bit more permanent compared to the state that it's been in. And right before I started planning all this out, a company called Miro reached out to me because they wanted to do a sponsorship, and it worked out perfectly because it's a diagramming platform, it's collaborative, and you could see here kind of the planning setup that I have, which I'll be using throughout this video to kind of explain what's going on. Overall, it's super easy to use, there's a ton of assets, and it's very collaborative when it comes to what you can do with it. They bring fragmented technical workflows into a unified visual workspace where engineering teams, network admins, you for your home lab can share and collaborate on things that would be complex for non-technical users. On the hardware side for my home lab, it's been in this chaotic, kind of half-documented state for way too long. And I consistently had the problems where I think I know what a thing is plugged into, I unplug an Ethernet port, something else that I did not want to go down goes down, like during a backup, for example. It was a mess. What I'm building out on Miro is not just the network topology, which you could get with Unifi or Omada, but really building out something to visualize how everything actually interacts with each other, what's running where, IP schemes, storage allocations, all of it. So whether if you're doing network diagrams, system architecture, or even cloud infrastructure, it is all there. Granted, some of the shapes do require a premium plan, but at least everything that's on my Homelab dashboard was done completely with the free plan, so you can kind of see what you could do when you try it out. And throughout this video, you'll see some of the features, including some of the AI stuff, but if you're interested in checking it out now, you can check out the very first link down below. And now before I get into the actual hardware and setup, let's talk about the actual rack that everything's enclosed in. And I've had this one for quite a while. This is the NavPoint 22U enclosed rack. It has wheels, it has some fans. Overall, it's been serving me well, and it's actually not until rather recent that I've actually had a bunch of rack mounted things actually in it. Usually it was just a storage cabinet with some shelves and some NASs in there. But now it's starting to really come together, especially after I cleaned it up in the last week or so. And then from there, we are going to look inside the rack. Now we're going to start with our networking stuff. And again, this is Unifi equipment, and they did send over quite a bit of this. There is no way that I would have bought anything this nice for myself. As a matter of fact, before they sent over that, I was actually thinking about switching over to Unifi, and to do so, I was scurrying like Facebook Marketplace, finding some smaller type equipment so I could build a micro rack, a little mini rack. Got a little nano switch here for outside. Again, I'm not using any of this stuff at the moment. This right here, this Light 8 PoE was going to be one of my main switches, and as you'll kind of see, I don't really have too many things plugged into it, where I also have a, what is it, a 16-port switch upstairs, so I was going to use the 2 switches and self-host Unifi on something like a little mini PC or something, which is something you could do now. And if you're interested in seeing that setup, do let me know down below. But here we have the Dream Machine Pro Max. Pro Max is a silly name. They obviously copied Apple's weird naming schemes. But this thing is absolutely absurd. We have two 3.5-inch hard drive bays. I do have two 8TB drives in those. I haven't fully integrated Unifi Protect, but I do plan on testing it out and using it. We have 8 1GB ports. We have a 2.5 gig WAN, which is perfect because that's kind of what I have with Comcast. Granted, the upload speed is terrible. It's running on coax. And then we have some 10 gig SFP. Has a little touch screen. It's beautiful. I love it. Again, completely overkill for my setup, but I will probably not have to worry about getting a new one for a very long time. Of course, this is a Dream Machine, so it manages just about everything. Of course, it manages the entire network infrastructure. You could use it for, again, Unifi Protect. You could use it for a phone system. It's the cloud gateway, the router, the switch, all that, all in one. And then skipping the patch panels for now, under that we have another ridiculous item, the USW Pro XG 10 PoE, which it's this guy right here. You can see we have 10 PoE+++ ports delivering a total of 400 watts out of those 10 PoE ports, all supporting, of course, up to 10 gigabit. I'm only really utilizing 1 or 10 gig on one machine technically, but having those PoE++ ports is very nice again for kind of future proofing. And eventually when we move into a different house, I can probably use it to like hardwire PoE to like every room of the house or whatever. Cool thing is it has 2 of these 10 gig SFP ports, which you can see here, and those are basically acting as a link between this Unifi stack, linking the Unifi Dream Machine Pro and a machine I have below that, which is the Unifi Pro Max 24 port PoE. This one's cool. It has those like LED lights. As you can see, I haven't really done much to them yet. I only have a couple things plugged into it, but as I add more and more, it's going to be really nice to kind of differentiate with the lighting what is what. But yeah, this thing's silly, delivering 400 watts of PoE up to PoE++. We still have the 2 10 gig SFP ports, 8 PoE++ 2.5 gig ports, and then 16 single gigabit ports, but with 8 of them being PoE++ and another being PoE+. Which these plus or plus ones are really nice because then you can hook them up to a switch that takes PoE in and then use that to power like a bunch of different cameras, access points, or any other IoT devices that run off of PoE. And in between all of these, we have our patch panel, and this thing is really cool because it's actually kind of in sections. So instead of like if I needed to unplug something from the back, instead of needing to like pull out the whole rack, reach around, try to grab the right thing, you can just pop out a panel, a little section of the actual patches, and work on it that way. It's really nice. There it is. It's the Everest 24 port patch panel, and you could see we have 6 of the patches that are removable. And of course, you can use it with a variety of different things. So as time goes on, I could get real complicated with my setup if I'd like to. I got the 2-pack of them here, and those are rested nicely in between all of the Unifi equipment. So hopefully I could keep the actual cable management as pretty as possible. And that's not the only Unifi switch that I'm currently using. If we actually go over here, this is a more kind of larger overview network map. And cool thing, this was actually generated with AI. You can use it to generate diagrams from text. It's pretty wild. It worked. I just did a kind of table list of all of my equipment, the connections, and it generated it. I just needed to move some things around, change the formatting a little bit. But the fact it actually did all the connections properly and everything was awesome. But what I'm getting at here is we have our gateway, our 10 gig switch, and that 24 PoE switch. That is connected to, we have a cable run that goes up into the upper level of the house with a USW Lite PoE 16 port switch, with 8 of them actually being PoE and the other 8 being just non-PoE. But you can see that is powering mostly just Real-Link cameras and then a wireless access point that is upstairs. And I don't think did I map it? Oh no, I didn't map it. I actually have 2 of these access points, and one of them is sitting right here on top of the rack. Give it a color. Whoop. And this is hooked up to the 10 gig switch. There we go. Kind of cool. You guys can see a little live edit of this thing. There we go. And that is the U7 Pro XG. That is this one right here. Mine are in white. These are a Wi-Fi 7 AP supporting up to 10 gigabit, and it's this and my actual kind of big ass NAS unit that are actually utilizing the 10 gig capabilities that I have. Which takes us from here over to the rack. Right below that, we have the OpnNas SLR12 Pro. This is a newer company. They're not selling them as of yet. I know they've had some issue with like the Canadian Postal Service going on strike, a couple different things, but they are starting to ship them out. They ran a, I believe, Indiegogo or Kickstarter campaign to kind of get started. And I mean, even if you don't buy this as like a fully built machine, they're going to sell the cases, and that is the case for this for a rack mount system is awesome. The whole thing here is about 6U. The bottom units here are all dedicated to hard drives, but then this top section here is the motherboard, CPU fan, and you actually have room to throw in some like graphics cards. I have a 10 gig NIC in there. It's like the size of a computer laying on its side with a bunch of hard drives, 12 hard drives specifically on the bottom. I mean, I had this kind of bigger sized Radeon 580 in there for a little bit just for testing. And even though the size is decent, I still had to kind of remove it to throw the gig NIC in because a lot of the PCIe slots are taken up by the devices that handle the 12 different hard drives that are in this thing. This right here is a good view of their tri-mode backplane, which connects most of these drives. Now, this machine specifically has the Intel 13500. This is awesome for media transcoding, and that is why this machine primarily is for bulk storage and media. So I did put Unraid on this thing because since I've used Unraid last, there has been a ton of updates, improvements, so on and so forth, which I'll get a little bit into with the drives. Which, speaking of storage, you can see I do have a rather unique setup here. I have 5 20 terabyte drives, all powered in an actual ZFS pool, RAID 1. So if one of these drives fails, I'll be okay. And then I have 7 4 terabyte drives that are just in kind of a typical Unraid pool. I have my array devices right here. So this is just a standard Unraid array with 2 of the drives being parity, so I can lose up to 2 of them. And the reason why I'm kind of using both methods at the moment is this pool I can easily upgrade. So if I have a couple like 16 terabyte things laying around, I could throw those into parity. And then that makes it so I can upgrade any of these drives up to 16 terabytes. That's one of the cool things about how Unraid works is you can mix and match drives, and it's really easy to swap them out. These drives down here I have in a, again, standard ZFS with a single 1 terabyte NVMe specifically for caching this. This media is being accessed all of the time because, again, it is mostly media, so movies, TV shows. I have family on Plex, so all these drives are spinning constantly, thus ZFS. This is a bit more kind of archival bulk storage, so these drives aren't being accessed all the time. So since it is an Unraid array, these drives actually spin down when they're not in use, as opposed to these pool devices here, or this ZFS pool. I do have this, I call it cache, which I should probably call it something else, kind of confusing. Basically what this is just 2 terabyte mirrored drives, and that primarily acts as my app data directory, which is all like the Docker Compose stuff, or my virtual machines, so the boot or root file systems for VMs. I'll probably, or I should rename this to Flash. That'd make a little bit more sense. But you can kind of see all this laid out here. We have that cache and the 2 Flash 2 terabyte drives. And for the software, you can kind of see that over here. I have my media server Docker stack, and then I have 2 virtual machines, which kind of act as little clouds, one being Ubuntu, or Ubuntu Managing Nextcloud. This one is image, not set up yet, but that will be there eventually. Going down here, sticking with the topic of compute, we have a Minisforum PC. Specifically, this is the Minisforum AI X1 Pro. The reason why I'm using this one as my Proxmox kind of node is the fact that it has a beast of a CPU. So we have 12 cores, 24 threads with that Ryzen AI HX 370, 2.5 gig networking. You can see about 62 gigs of RAM. I have 2 1 terabyte drives in there, which this is something I did a little bit differently from my Proxmox setup series, is when I actually installed the system, I set up the root file systems on ZFS during the actual installation process. So these are mirrored or striped, and you can see we have local and local ZFS instead of what it usually says when you first do it is local LLM, which before I would usually just end up kind of getting rid of that partition so we can use the full disk space. But for me, this works pretty good. Now, right here, I have this big X on this Synology machine. It's more or less just kind of sitting there. It is connected, but I am probably going to switch it out for something else, probably a NAS for a Proxmox backup server, something I do need to set up pretty soon. And you could see here, this Comcast machine, which I talked about, is up here, connected to the Dream machine, and then both the Minisforum as well as the OpnNas are connected to the 10 gig switch. And last but not least, for compute, I'm not using it for anything at the moment, but we do have a Pi 5 running while I am using it. It's running just a Netbird peer, but Netbird is very lightweight, so I'll probably end up throwing like a proxy or a dynamic DNS server on it, just so it's contributing a little bit more. Then finally, kind of on the topic of compute, I got this little Lutron hub plugged right into the Dream Machine Max. This thing manages smart lights. I moved into a house that already had some of the dimmers in it, so might as well use what I got. So I picked up the hub, and it integrates pretty well with Home Assistant, Homey, whatever you happen to be using. Now for security, you can see we have a Reolink NVR sitting up here. I did a whole separate video on Reolink, and a video that if you're interested in purchasing Reolink devices, you should definitely watch before doing so, because that NVR is part of a kit. So I have a bunch of different cameras. So if we head over here to more of the kind of wide view of our entire network, I am using 5 of the B400 kit cameras, and those need the NVR to work. You can pass or use NVR feeds in other systems such as Frigate, but you can't pull the feed directly from these kit cameras to other things. So you do have to use that NVR as a middleman, which kind of sucks. But I do have right here these Reolink Dome cameras, and those are just standard PoE, and I will always recommend Reolink PoE cameras. They're awesome. The features are relatively easy to get to work in something like Frigate, and it just works like a dream in basically anything else like Synology surveillance system, stuff like that. And I do have another camera. If we look over here, we have a Reolink 4K floodlight. And that camera is awesome. It's plugged into that 24 port PoE switch on the rack. And then we can see the NVR right here, which I actually, since I generated this, I moved this over here and switch these connections. So there we go. That's what it actually looks like. This is missing a couple devices, but I mostly generated this for a overview of the switches and whatnot. And that's basically it. We're going to get into some of the power stuff here. So of course, with this much stuff and this many spinning hard drives, 20 terabyte drives, if you have anything of value, you're going to want a UPS. And for that, I'm using the Triplite Smart 1500. Everything's plugged into that. If my power goes out, it can run for about 30 to 40 minutes uninterrupted. So for most power outages, that's going to be fine. But a cool thing is that you can see I do have this connected up into this machine running Unraid. Unraid, you could get a NUT server, so it can detect when this thing is actually on battery, and when it hits like 25–30%, it will begin a nice gradual shutdown process of this machine right here with all these spinning disks. Nice shutdown is kind of important. And then for just like general accessories, we have a pretty simple power switch here. We have a nav point drawer, which just stores random stuff related to all of this. So with that, that is my tour. If you're interested in trying out Miro, go ahead. There again, it's the first link down below. Pretty good platform, especially for collaborative stuff. They do have a lot more features that go way beyond this. For example, if I'm to come over here to templates, you could do a bunch of different stuff, whether it be just like all these sticky pad things, mind maps. If I go down here to use cases, you could create presentations through it, strategy and planning stuff. So then you could set up roadmaps, workflows, business mind maps, DevOps roadmaps. They have a huge amount of different project planning stuff, graphics, templates, so on and so forth. So that will be linked down below, as well as anything else I mentioned in this video, including all of the hardware. So there's going to be a huge list of Amazon affiliate links if you're interested in checking anything out. And if it's something like the OpnNas where it's not available yet, I'll probably just link to their website and you could like subscribe to notifications if you're interested in learning more about something like that. And with all that, I do hope you have an absolutely beautiful day and goodbye.